How's it going? I'm Marlene. Thanks for wandering by. So, I wanted to come on tonight. It's night where I am, and I'm really kind of sleepy, maybe a little bit loopy. I don't know how long this video is gonna be, maybe short, but I wanted to come on to share with you something that I did that I think is pretty cool. And I was excited by it, and I feel like it's a practice that I'm going to continue doing. So, I'm reading fiction again, and I mean, I've always been an avid reader, but I haven't really been reading fiction as often as I used to. I used to like read huge fantasy series. I mean, I was just always reading. And recently, I want to say maybe, in the past few years, I just haven't been able to get through as many books as I used to. Life is just busy, and work and mom, and being a mom and all that kind of stuff makes it a little bit more difficult to read as often. Like, I just would get too tired to read. But I made a commitment to myself that I wanted to make the time to read again, because I love to read. I am I love reading for study, and I love reading for entertainment, and I love reading to, learn new things. And so recently I started reading I've been reading Octavia Butler, and now I know that I'm late to the party. I'm a big sci-fi fantasy nerd and geek, and some of my favorite series are The Wheel of Time and The Dark Tower. All stuff like that. The most recently, the Broken Earth trilogy is another one that I read like few years ago already. But Octavia Butler she's amazing science fiction writer that has been around for some time. And I've had people recommend her works to me before, and the Parable of the Sower, I think, is her most famous. But anyway, that's not the one that I'm reading. I'm talking about the book that I'm not reading. I am reading, and I'm reading it on my Kindle. So I'll show you the cover. I don't know how cute that looks up on the Kindle, but I am reading the Xenogenesis trilogy. Yeah, this is Dawn, book 1 of the Xenogenesis trilogy. I think it might have another name now. Like, if you look it up, I think it might be called Lilith's Brood is the new name when they reprinted it. Anyway, I think this was originally came out in the 80s. But anyway, it's fascinating. And I'm the type of person that becomes completely ensconced in the media that I'm consuming. So if I get into a book series, if I get into a TV show or movie, usually TV shows and book series are my main thing. I just become obsessed with that world and the characters, and I live that storyline in my mind. While I'm like really in it. Like, I definitely get in it. And because it's such an exciting experience to me to read something new and to get so involved in it, and to think about the broader ideas and themes. And I'm a literature nerd too. So it's just really exciting for me to get into the story, into the characters, into the craft of the writing as well, but also to think of the themes and the messages, and what does this mean for me? I'm always that I'm that person. That's how I mean, that's how I consume my books and TV shows, you know. I mean, of course it's entertaining, but it's also just about yeah, like it's point, you know, like it's point, like how poignant it is. I was going to say poignancy, but I'm not sure that that's a word. But how poignant it is, and like what it means to me, and how like I feel like affected by and changed by my favorite books, and yeah, and so this one I'm only like 35% of the way through this book, but I love it. Like it's really really good. It's like I said, it's sci-fi, and it is it's I didn't do like research on it before I started reading it. Um, but it is, the main character's name is Lilith, and I won't do any spoilers. Well, I can't really do much spoilers because I haven't read that much of it yet. The main character's name is Lilith, and she's a human woman that wakes up in this sterile room, and she doesn't know where she is, but soon comes to realize that she is in the care of these tentacled aliens, and there was a great war on Earth, and she has been woken up like 250 years later, in the care of these beings, and it's so much more than just that. Like there's, you know, that's like your premise, but there's so much to her character. There's so much to what she finds out. There's so much about like what is alien, you know, to her, what is alien to the creatures that she's with, like how beings interact with one another. Like there's so much more to it. Yeah, like it's really really good, and it's making me think so much about myself and how I identify, and all kinds of really, like, you know, cool stuff. So because I've been obsessed with this story the last, well, how long have I been reading this now? Maybe like a week or so, a week and a half. Yeah, maybe that. I don't know. I'm reading slowly these days. I used to like just like eat things up and binge read before, but I just can't do that these days. Anyway, I a while back, Don Michelle did a really really cool tag called I think it was called Pairing My Reads. I'll put it in the, I'll link to my VR to her, and I'll put her original video down below as well. But it was called Pairing My Reads, where she was pairing her specific tarot decks to novels, and I thought it was so cool. I absolutely loved it, and I jumped on board that, and I showed some of my favorite books and decks that I connected it to. I feel like this, what I'm going to talk about now, what I did is like sort of the next step in that kind of pairing your reads, because I want to incorporate tarot into everything that I'm doing all the time because I love the tarot, and I love what it opens up for me in my life, and with my, you know, with what I'm thinking about. And because I've been reading this book, I wanted to pick the perfect tarot deck that felt like it, you know, paired with this story. And then also I wanted to then take it to the next step and read and like ask, like, you know, ask the cards specific things as I'm going through reading this novel. And so first I'll show you the tarot deck that I picked that I think matches this book really well, and then I'll just show you really quickly the reading that I came up with that I feel like is gonna be like kind of a universal reading that you can do with any, I think fiction, I mean, precisely, yeah, fiction, uh, books is what it'll work with, but it's something I think that I can do over and over again with this particular book as I'm reading it. And any other novel that I read, I can always do it, and I can probably expand upon it. But I just thought it was really cool, and it was really meaningful to me. And I wanted to share it with you in case it's something that you would be interested in trying out yourself, or something that you maybe have done before. So yeah, so first, let me just show you the deck that I picked, to pair with it. So I chose the Dream Vision Tarot, and this is an indie deck. This is the first edition. I think they have a second edition now. So I picked I grabbed this deck to pair with a science fiction book about aliens, because this deck is full of, and it's full of, let me finish my sentence before I interrupt myself like I always do. This deck is full of these otherworldly beings that feel like alien. They feel so ethereal. They are from just, it's like somewhere else, but they feel like great teachers. They feel like they know so much more than we do as puny, humans. And I paired this deck in my Pair Your Reads VR to Don Michelle with the book A Wrinkle in Time, which made perfect sense too. Like, this deck seems like it's the deck for, aliens, until I get my alien deck from from Dawn Michelle when she creates it. But it seems like the perfect deck to go with science fiction, with these otherworldly creatures, and specifically with this book, these beings, these aliens feel like so far beyond what we know about the universe. And yeah, they just feel like they have so much to teach, that the main character is being revealed to the main character. Her name is Lilith. I think I mentioned that already. But yeah, I love this deck. And it's not the type of deck that is an everyday kind of reader to me. It feels really special because it feels like you're definitely tapping into and connecting with, with something just much greater than myself, I should say. So I don't bring it out all the time. So when I thought of what deck I wanted to use for this particular reading to pair or to use when I'm reading fiction, especially this type, this science fiction. God, I love that World card. It's so beautiful. It just felt like a perfect fit. This High Priestess is amazing. I think the difference between this edition and the new one is that rather than the titles being all the same down here at the bottom of the card, they're incorporated into the image in different ways. Look at that moon card. I love it. It's blurry on purpose. It's so good. But yeah, like these hands and these, these amazing like alien beings. Yeah. I know they don't have tentacles. And they don't look like what I imagine the Oankali. I think that's the name of the aliens in this book, in this Octavia Butler book. They don't look like what I imagine those beings look like, but they're like akin to them. It's like something like that. It just feels right. So what I did was I just came up with, for the reading, so I just came up with 3 simple questions to ask the cards. And I feel like this is something that, like I said, like it's simple, it was organic, and you can expand upon it. But right now, these 3 questions seemed perfectly right in how I want to do the reading again when I do try this out another time as I continue through the novel. And I just wanted to, I wanted to do a reading because I felt like I was connecting with this story, and it was becoming like something that I felt like was going to teach me something outside of myself. I felt like it was something that like was helping me tap into, I don't know, just like bigger, larger themes. I wanted to use the tarot to connect there maybe even further, and maybe even more like on a personal level, to see like what this means more specifically for me in my like everyday real life. And so these are the 3 questions that I asked. So the first question, and I guess I can put this up on the screen too. The first question, or the first position in this spread, it's only 3 cards, is how am I like the main character in this story right now? So it's like a very present moment, type of thing. And for that, I drew the Ace of Swords. I guess I'll get a little closer so you can see. And it was spot on. It was definitely exactly how I felt connected and feel connected to Lilith's story so far, and her awakening of thought, of ideas, of how she sees herself, of how she sees humanity. I always think of the aces as the root, the root of the power of their element. So the root of the power of air, very connected to intelligence, very connected to thought. And it just seemed like I am like Lilith's mind, and like I'm mirroring the experience I feel like that she's having in her own mind about the meaning of things, like about what really what has meaning, basically. So yeah, so that's the first question, is how am I like the main character in the story right now? And then the second question is, how am I not like the main character of the story right now? So, me and how I like to do the opposite of things. So for that, I got the Hierophant. Will you look at that? So the Hierophant. In this deck, this is such a different looking Hierophant than you would see. You do have the pillars. You do have a being in between the pillars. Here you have the night and the day, and this sort of like twin kind of, I don't know, maybe even tentacles coming up from the Hierophants or behind them. I don't know if it's attached to them, but it really feels like in this depiction, the Hierophant is a being who is connected to, is that conduit between this plane and another plane of existence, or another, something outside of this realm. It feels like they are, and it feels very much of the mind. It feels very much in this brain space that they are, you know, it's not anything like super physical. It just feels like they have sort of the gateway into something beyond themselves. And so I do feel as though Lilith is her character and what she's going through is making this connection. Like she is a conduit and she is like my teacher in a way. Like her, like what her story is doing is acting as a teacher for me, about these kinds of things, about being able to, I don't know, think beyond your own physical world. And also the way you see other beings. But yeah, so I feel like I'm not where she is, where this main character is. Like I'm learning. I'm learning those ideas. And then finally, the last question is, what does this story have to teach me? So the first two were about the main character. How am I like the main character? How am I not like the main character? And then finally, what does this story have to teach me right now? Or what is this story teaching me right now? And I got the Nine of Swords. You never want to get this card because it always feels so like ominous. But look at this card in the dream vision with this, like, you can't even see the lower half of this being's face, this character's face. And then there's this, you know, orb in the middle, and the swords are piercing through. And I do feel like this is right, that this story, and I'm only in book one, so I have so much more to go, is teaching, you know, it's more than just this, like, you know, this random science fiction story. There's a lesson here. I don't know what it is yet, but there's certainly a lesson about fear. There was already a scene that I just read where Lilith first, so far she hadn't come in contact with any other humans. She'd only been in contact with the Oankali, the aliens that are keeping her prisoner, hostage, whatever you want to say. And the experience when she is with another human being is like really, really intense. I mean, this book is pretty intense all around, but there's a lot of fear and a lot of questions and a lot of, like, you know, the way that I'm reading it, like, I don't think of the questions until she asks the questions. And then I'm like, why didn't I think of, why didn't I think of that? Like, why isn't she asking these particular things? And there's a lot of waking up, feeling, you know, like she literally was, awakened from a 250-year sleep. So there's that, like, you know, that connection with the Nine of Swords, you know, waking from a nightmare and having that experience, and the fear. But this is sort of like this is all about in the mind. But this card feels like it's about, like, how the sun will set on this idea, like how you will move past that fear, like how that is internalized and how it is moved past. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it makes sense to me. And that's, you know, what really matters. Because yeah, when this card came up, like I knew that that was right. That this card is about fear and anxiety and what is alien and who is alien, you know, and being afraid of something other than yourself and what that really means, like for humanity and beyond, right? So I'm excited to continue on with this novel, and I want to do this reading again. Definitely with the Dream Vision Tarot. I don't know, it might change and I might, you know, pick another deck, but this one seems really right for it. I was just really super excited to come here and to tell you about, you know, this experience that I had, because I'm going to do this reading again. Hope that you enjoyed that. Please definitely tell me if this is something that you will try, or if it's something that you do already. And yeah, thank you for sticking around with my kind of sleepy time, albeit I got all excited and wound up ramble. Thank you for sticking around with me, and I hope you all have a beautiful, wonderful night. Bye.